Dear colleagues, we continue our working day, and now the floor is given to Ministry of Defense of Ukraine spokesman on ATO-related issues, Colonel Oleksandr Motuzyanyk. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Now the information about the main events that happened yesterday in the ATO zone. The Lugansk sector, military actions were in Popasnyansky and Novoaidarsky region. The flash sports were Troitska and suburbs of Popasna and Krymska. During day and at night in this area, Russian occupation forces used mortars, launched about 140 mines. And after sunset, the militants provided sporadic artillery shelling, launching 8 shells to Novozyanyk and Krymska. And in Stanitsa-Lugansk region, it was absolute lull. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Lugansk sector, there were 25 enemy shellings, including 15 with the use of heavy weapons. The Donetsk sector, the enemy opened fire at our positions along the front line. The regions of biggest military activity were Avdiivka and its suburbs. And the enemy delivered fire with the use of heavy weapons, and they did it with interruptions starting after sunrise until 10 p.m. and during the day in the direction of Yasenovata, enemy sniper was active. And in the course of enemy shelling in Avdiivka, private house was damaged. Roofs and windows were damaged. This is the last house on the street, and it is adjacent to the front line. And occupation forces of Russia delivered fire with the use of cannons of 152 millimeter of caliber to Klishivka village, launching 80 shells. The enemy put the artillery in the north and west suburbs of Gorlovka, and at the same time they launched 5 artillery shells at our positions near Novobakhmutivka. And in Svetlodarsk, Balchik, Gorlovka perimeter and in the region of the Donetsk airport, the enemy actively used small arms and sporadically mortar fire, launching several mines to Ukrainian positions. And on the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Donetsk sector, there were 34 enemy shelling, including 16 with the use of heavy weapons. The Mariupol sector in Mariinsky region, there were 5 incidents of violations of ceasefire recorded. Twice the militants opened fire with the use of small arms in Mariinka. 3 times they violated ceasefire in Krasnogorovka. They launched several mines to the direction of Ukrainian forces. And to the south, it was calm throughout the day, except short-term shelling with the use of weaponry of APCs in the region of Starognadivka. The enemy launched 2 mines in the west to Dokuchaevsk. In the eastern approach to Mariupol, Russian occupation forces opened fire throughout the day, predominantly with the use of small arms, and they also used heavy weapons in this part of front line. 3 times Russian occupation forces shelled our positions with mortars in Vodyane. 1 mortar and artillery shelling was recorded in Pavlopil. And civilians suffer from aggressive actions of the enemy in Gnutova. In the course of enemy shelling, 4 houses were damaged, windows were ruined, and during the last 24 hours in the Mariupol sector, there were 32 enemy shelling, 1/4 with the use of heavy weapons. During the last 24 hours, in the result of the military actions, no Ukrainian serviceman was killed, but 4 our servicemen were wounded. And in the region of ATO, SBU, together with police, found 2 caches of ammunition in the forest between Chasiv Yar and Klishivka in the Nechina. The operative officers found 11 tank shells of 125 millimeter of caliber. And also in Luganshina, law enforcers confiscated an arsenal from the resident of Rubizhne. There were a lot of cartridges of different caliber, RGD grenade, and 3 shells to underbarrel grenade launcher. And at the same time in Kiev, SBU officers identified a channel of DPR financing. The transfer of money from capital of Ukraine to Donetsk was organized by IDP from Donbass. And the end users were the NGB representatives nicknamed Pioneer and Nimitz, and they are former law enforcers who defected, and this money was used to carry out subversive activities. In course of search, law enforcers confiscated documents that confirm illegal actions, computer equipment and communication means. Now investigation continues. In Brigade of Tactical Aviation of Air Command, that's called Santa, there were planned flights. Flight crews flew MiG-29 and L-39 test airplanes. And also in the National Guard, they have all Ukrainian action that is called Help Your Battle Buddy. National Guardsmen from Varash, Vinnytsia, Dnipro, Kremenchuk, Netyshin, Rivne-Slavchuk, Slavutich and Uzhgorod voluntarily donated their blood to servicemen armed forces of Ukraine. These were those who served in ATO and saw with their own eyes wounded soldiers and officers. That's why conscripts, contract servicemen, experienced warriors and new recruits understand the importance of this honorable cause. At the same time, at Izmail railway station in Odessa Oblast, they had training of National Guardsmen. The detachment that helped the Guard, that Guard special freight, they completed all the tasks in well-coordinated manner. Special attention was paid to security measures, provision of medical help, and evacuation of wounded. Yesterday, National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine adopted the full stop of movement of freight between occupied territories of Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast and Big Ukraine. This step was made because there was massive seizure of Ukrainian enterprises by militants and the occupation administration, and the humanitarian help will be delivered to the residents, and the citizens can go through checkpoints with their personal belongings and goods for personal use, both on foot and by transport. Starting 1st p.m. the 15th of March, National Guardsmen and servicemen, police officers and border guards reinforced safeguard of main automobile routes and railway roads. This is all. Do you have questions? Thank you, Colonel. Do you have questions? Yes. What will be the further steps connected with the stop of this movement of goods? What are the further steps? I cannot forecast further situation. So the decision of National Security and Defense Council made its decision, and this information is made public. Thank you. Next event is at 1 p.m.